Hi, my name is Rob Scott from CX Today. Hope you're doing well. Today, I'm joined by Brian Atkinson, who's the VP and General Manager in EMEA at Five9, and he'll be sharing his perspective on the CX marketplace in 2022. Welcome, Brian.
Thanks, Rob. Looking forward to our discussion today.
Yeah, good to see you, Brian, and thanks for taking time out to talk to me today about customer experience in the year ahead. I suppose just before we dive in, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what Five9 does, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Rob, you'll notice that my accent is not European, but I actually moved to the UK 13 years ago, and I moved here to run a contact center business. And so I've always had a passion for customer experience. So much so that I went and got my certified customer experience professional certification. I've just really been involved in the industry for the past 13 years here in the UK. I live up in the Northeast in Durham with two kids who are fantastic. Absolutely love them to death. And from a Five9 perspective, I actually joined Five9 2 years ago, and Five9's been around for about 20 years, and they're one of the leaders in the cloud contact center space. But they were predominantly known in the US. And 5 years ago, they put our first employees here into the UK. And my role has been really about growing the Five9 brand, the presence, and really the customer base here in EMEA. And I'm really excited to share some of the things that we're doing here that I think is compelling in this industry. And so I guess that's just a quick high-level overview of who I am, where I'm from, and then also a little bit about Five9.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Brian. Okay, to get things started, I mean, let's talk about CX in 2022. How do you see customer experience shaping up in the year ahead?
Yeah, I always like to baseline things and kind of maybe reflect a little bit first. And we put out a customer service index every year. This year was the first year where we actually included non-US countries. So we actually include the UK and Germany, Spain, France this year. So we have got a nice European perspective as well. And from that, a couple of interesting statistics came up. One, if we look back a year ago, kind of 2 years ago, pre-COVID, it said about 30% of UK retailers were actually going to do their shopping, online. What we found this year is that 57% of UK consumers are actually doing their shopping online. So that to me tells me that there's kind of a shift here that, we're doing more things from home, right? Whether, we're just not comfortable going back out into the world yet, whether we've kind of changed our habits. I mean, that's one interesting trend. I think as it relates to customer experience though, another really interesting statistic was that 25% of people said that consumers said their contact center experience has gotten worse in the past year. 23% says it's improved. So we have 50% that says it's stayed the same. So we've got some interesting statistics there. Having been in this industry now for a good 12 years here in the UK, the focus has always been on how do we take it to the next level. And this is actually showing that, over the past year, really 50% are saying that the experience is flat. And so I think we have a little bit of work to do. And I think that would be my challenge to the audience today is just maybe reflect a little bit on your own consumer experiences, maybe reflect a little bit into your organization and think about the things that improved, that you did really well, think about things that didn't do so well, and also think about the things that have just stayed stagnant. I think that's a really good way to kind of put things into perspective about how things should shape up for your organization going forward. So I guess my challenge is out there, right? Let's take a look at inspect the journeys. Let's inspect our voice of the customer data, and actually take a look at how we can help shape the future of customer experience.
Yeah, that is really interesting, isn't it? So what about work from home? I mean, that just went crazy during the pandemic, obviously, for obvious reasons. But, will the work from home trend continue even more into 2022, do you think?
Yeah, I think, the stat that we just mentioned, 57% of UK consumers will do their shopping online this year. I think that's an indication that people are, staying home. I will say I'm in the office today, and I was down for one of our largest customers here in the UK's leadership event yesterday, where we had 100 leaders across their business, and we were working together on kind of future plans for next year. I will say that people are wanting to get together as well. So there's this kind of dichotomy of like, do I travel? Do I not? Some people still don't feel comfortable. Some people are really wanting to get out. I mean, even at the event yesterday, all of us had to take lateral flow tests before we attended the event, which is great, right? It gives you that kind of sense that you're doing the right thing for the community, and obviously we all had masks on during the sessions and those types of things. So it feels like we're doing the right thing. As it relates to work from home, I think it's the hybrid model is here to stay. You'll have the people that love to socialize and get out and not do things, get that Zoom fatigue, if you will, and from 12-hour a day Zoom meetings. I think it's a balance, and so I think we will continue to see that. I think going back to the other statistic that we talked about 50% really of consumers say that their customer experience hasn't improved, and 23% say it's decreased. Contact center managers and operations teams had a really challenging year last year. A lot of them we're still struggling with the on-premise world of how do we get agents to connect just with audio. How do we get their data systems connected securely? And so I think we've got a little bit of leeway, I guess, from the last year or so to say it was a challenging time. It was hard for the contact center teams, and not just the people running the systems, but even the agents themselves, right? Trying to give empathy to a person who's been on Zoom fatigue for 12 hours or not seen anybody for quite a while, during our lockdowns earlier this year, presents really challenging scenarios. So while those statistics, aren't the best, that 23% of experiences haven't improved, they've gotten worse. I think we have to take a step back and think about the reality of the situation that we've just gone through. And so, from that perspective, I do believe work from home will continue. I think there's some technology trends that will help, with that in the contact center space. So, whether it's gamification type of technologies where you can get better engagement out of your agents or your advisors through winning prizes and doing those types of things. Whether it's just better analytics, from a workforce management system to be able to make sure that we're scheduling the staff appropriately from a virtual perspective. There's some tools there that we've seen kind of an increase in adoption just because of this hybrid model. But back to your original question, is it as big and will it continue? I think we've kind of seen the peak, and I think we'll see it taper off a little bit. But I do think hybrid is here to stay for sure.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And in terms of the future of CX and kind of how that's going to shape up in 2022, I want to just kind of ask you. I know you've done a webinar recently, and you dived a little deeper on this, but I did watch that. And it was really interesting. It just around kind of some of the top priorities for CX leaders and how technologies, kind of stepping up to meet some of those challenges. Could you talk us through some of the big takeaways from that, if possible?
Yeah, I would highlight kind of three areas, and one I would say that what we've seen and what we will continue to see into 2022 is that the best in class companies, are nimble, are boundaryless, and also have been able to figure out what a digital workforce means to their contact center. And so those three areas are really, I guess, the three areas I would like to expand on a little bit if we can. Nimble relates to some of the things we just talked about. How do you drastically shift the mode of operation from working in the office to working at home? Well, it's through the business being nimble and being able to leverage applications in the cloud to where it's seamless, right? Where you don't have to worry about firewalls and those types of things. So those types of scenarios, right? Just being that kind of nimble organization. So if you're watching this webinar today and you're kind of doing some self-inspection and thinking, how can we improve? I would challenge yourself to look at, how could you be nimble? I think that would be one really, really key aspect. The second, which is boundaryless. We've been talking about it ever since I've been in the industry, and this is the silo that contact center is, or was, if you will. And what I mean by that is that it's always been, this box that had really hard to configure integrations into a couple of different business systems or business applications. And as soon as you start to get into this modern world of data that is APIs and, again, cloud-based systems, you're able to break down those silos so much more effectively. And so one of the trends that we're seeing is, companies, especially large organizations, making their data accessible through a data lake, for example, and making it to where you can access the information so much easier through simple API calls and through simple pre-built integrations, and then automating some of those integrations as well. So if an event happens in the contact center, why not automatically write that, to the backend system? And that may sound, Rob, like, oh, well, we've been able to do that for, 15 years. Yes, but the heavy lifting that those types of integrations took mean that you got to do one or two things, and it was like that for 2 or 3 years. You couldn't be nimble, you couldn't change. Whereas today, with a few clicks, of a mouse, you're able to set up these connections and establish, that kind of boundaryless data access. And why is that important? It's important because we have to know our customers better. We have to understand why they're calling better. We have to be able to understand what their end goal in making a call or a contact into the contact center is, and we have to be able to equip our agents better with information. So this kind of all lends into that whole discussion that's around AI. And that kind of whole realm of like what is AI? Well, it's all about surfacing that data, making it more available to an agent or to a consumer in a very consumable fashion that improves the journey and improves the experience. So being nimble, very key, and being boundaryless, very, very key as well. And I think the last area is really around what's called the digital workforce. Before we get into that, I'd just be curious. I've kind of spoken a lot. Your couple quick thoughts. Do you have anything around a few of the things I've just said there?
Yeah, it's really interesting what you're saying, and I suppose it makes perfect sense. I think the real challenge is I suppose achieving those goals, isn't it, for a lot of organisations, because we're all different. We've all got different makeup and legacy. So I suppose becoming nimble and agile, and is a real challenge for all organisations. So I find that really interesting, but it does make perfect sense. Go on, carry on. What is you just about to say?
About digital workforce. I was giving you a little teaser there, Rob. I was. So the digital workforce. We've kind of had this thought or trend, or people have been talking about in the context center, that the robots will take over one day, and that's not what we're referring to here by any means. But what the digital workforce allows us to do in 2021, 2022, we've seen a drastic increase in the digital channels over the past few years. There's been a lot of investment, around web chat, and SMS and WhatsApp and those. We've seen less innovation in the voice channel, and I'll talk about that in a second. But what this digital workforce allows you to do is to be able to handle those routine tasks, whether they're digital, whether they're voice, and handle them in a very natural language communication style. And that's where where technology has really benefited us today, because we've had technologies like automatic speech recognition for many, many years, but they're just really frustrating. But we have in our daily life, we have Siri with us, and she helps us out quite a bit. We've got our home devices that we can speak to, and the beauty of that is that some of these larger providers like a Google have got really good at natural language processing, so much so that it's kind of transparent to the end user. And so from a digital workforce perspective, what we're really talking about is providing that self-service experience that's as good as a human for X percentage of your inquiries, right? Especially like things like change of address or ordering a new bin because mine got blown away in Storm Arwen the other day. Those types of scenarios are very straightforward, and they used to be really frustrating self-service experiences. But now with the great kind of conversational UIs and the natural language processing, those experiences, whether digital, whether voice, whether it's accessing a frequently asked question database, those types of things are very seamless today. And you'd be amazed, I think, at how much the technology has really advanced in a few years. Now, one of the key things in harnessing, this digital workforce, and we call it really the intelligent virtual agent, the IVA, if you will, is that they've got to be able to be deployed, seamlessly, quickly, and at low cost, right? The things that we've been doing 2 or 3 years ago, cost millions and millions of dollars in professional services, and it was only for kind of maybe a few of the kind of elite, companies that were willing to spend that kind of money and invest that technology. And what we see today is that we want that to be really consumerized, meaning like we want that to be available to all organizations, whether you're 5 contact center agents, 100 or 10,000, and whether you're public sector or whether you're private sector, it doesn't matter. It should be available to everybody. And so the advent of these IVAs, the digital workforce that can handle both digital and voice queries, and come in an out of the box solution in a very simple interface that you can turn up in a matter of seconds, we've seen as a really big trend that's on the rise. In fact, we saw 180% increase in our IVA adoption just in 2021 alone, and processing more than 82 million minutes as well. So it's just a really big trend. And you think about like Storm Arwen, for example, that just hit the UK. Those are types of scenarios that maybe an insurance company, for example, you need immediate access to extra staff, and a virtual agent can allow you to do that, and they can handle some of those queries. So you put in a really quick, frequently asked questions, in a centralized location, and whether the consumer is coming in over chat or coming over voice, they can ask those types of questions, understand what's happening in my postcode. When is power going to be restored, for example, if you're a utility company? Those types of things can really offload and help in not only just emergency situations, but also in seasonality issues. You think about universities and kind of clearing, how they can handle a lot of those complex queries. And probably the biggest thing that I just will maybe close on this topic is that one of the most frustrating experiences in customer experience for the last 10 years is the voice experience. And what I mean by that is that actually voice is the best way to communicate. You and I having this conversation today, if my voice is better, it would be better than you and I trying to message back and forth, on WhatsApp, trying to have a conversation. That would be really challenging. So voice is still the best way to communicate. The problem is everything wrapped around the voice experience has been bad, right? So it's like, how do you get to that voice experience? Well, you go through an IVR. An IVR is painful, and you get lost in some IVR tree, and you just get so frustrated that you end up trying to hit 0 and try to just get to an agent, or you speak to, the interface, they just get me to an agent. The beauty of the IVA is that there's been, from a Five9 perspective, there's been so much advancement in being able to handle the voice aspect of it that we strongly believe as we go into 2022 that really the IVR should die. Right? That whole IVR experience should go away. It should be natural language. The technology is there to do it. It's out of the box where you can seamlessly integrate it and turn up services very simply. And from that perspective, let's just get rid of what's caused the bad voice experience for many, many years. Let's get to some self-service with natural language. A few, best-in-class companies are doing it today, but let's get that to the masses. And then let's get to a point where actually the voice experience is a great experience in the contact center, because you've got a really great voice experience leading up to a live agent if and when you need to speak to them. So I know I said a lot of things there, right? But that whole digital workforce really is what we're seeing as being a big trend going into 2022.
Yeah, no, I will say I love the IVA technology. I think by removing that IVR, that classic IVR, and the long call queues and the frustrations that are attached to those. I think we've got to move on, haven't we? But there is a place for the voice call. There is a place for the web chat. There is a place and a person for all these different options, and I think that's the shift that we have to make now, isn't it? Into the true omni-channel, contact environment. So
you're absolutely right. Absolutely.
Lots happening in the CX space. Really exciting. And I'm sure we're going to see lots more from Five9 in 2022. I mean, in terms of just very quickly how Five9 are helping its customers and partners in 2022, what can we expect to see?
Yeah, I mean, one of the core reasons I joined Five9 was the culture. It's an amazing organization with amazing people. We've built a world-class professional services organization, a world-class customer success management team, so the team that looks after our existing customers. And I think that is why we see such a high retention rate of our customers. And so I think, as we go into 2022, if you haven't worked with Five9 before, I think that's one of the things that you should come and experience, because the experience of working with Five9 is great. Not only is the culture great, the people are great. And, as you and I know, Rob, we're so busy in our day-to-day lives, you don't want to, waste time with an organization that is frustrating or doesn't have that great culture that just makes it fun to work together. And so I think that to me is something that I really love about Five9, and that's something that you can expect more of as we go into 2022. In fact, I'm just getting ready to do another interview for somebody else who we're hiring to lead some of our teams here in EMEA next year. So looking forward to finding the right candidates to continue that culture and just make that collaboration between our not only our internal teams, but with our customers successful. I think the second thing that you'll see is that we value partnerships. So from a partner perspective, we resell through numerous partners here in the UK, whether they're kind of the smaller organization like referral partners, or whether they're specialist organizations that have been in customer experience for 20 years. We have got a variety of different partners that we partner with. We maintain that integrity with our partners, and we work through them as a key go-to-market. And we do see the value that they bring to other customers, whether they're a customer wants to deploy Microsoft Teams, for example, and wants to have real tight integration with Microsoft Teams because we've seen such a rise in that. We've got partners that do that. If a customer needs somebody that provides great telco, while Five9 can do it, we also have our partners that can do that as well. So we've got, I guess, just a really solid partner network that we work through, and I think that's something you'll continue to see from Five9. We also have got really strong, as I mentioned, partnerships with the likes of Microsoft or even Zoom, but also with companies like a ServiceNow and a Salesforce. And so we're continuing to expand, that ecosystem of partnerships, because we do believe that being open, as we talked about at the very beginning about boundaryless access to data, right? Being open and letting customers have the choice of, we'd like to have, the ServiceNow or desktop. Fine, that's great. We'll run the voice and we'll help you with the IVAs, or we'll help you do, this part of the customer experience journey, and we can create those tight integrations to deliver the right customer experience for that organization. So you'll continue to see, I guess, just great culture, great teamwork and collaboration, and then also us continuing to tighten our strength and partners, which again gives the customer the whole solution. So
that's great. And for anyone out there looking to make contact with Five9 or find out more, what's the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, so we've got a couple of different ways. One, there'll be a link at the end of this webinar. We've got our five9.com UK website and websites across the various countries. Or you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to have you reach out directly to me. So look forward to people reaching out.
Well, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for today. However, if you're interested in finding out more, absolutely, there's some links in the description. Plus, there is a link to that webinar we were discussing earlier. So do take a look at that. It's fantastic. Thanks, Brian. Good to see you. And it's been great talking to you today. Thanks for all your insights.
Thanks, Rob. Take care.
And thanks to everyone for watching CX Today. If you've got some good takeaways from today's session, do give us a quick mention on social and subscribe to our channel for more industry news and insights. So I'm Rob Scott from CX Today. Thanks for watching. you.